What does it mean when a problem created in London, Berlin, or Washington is solved in Kigali, Kampala, or Tunis? For decades, the global migration crisis has been framed as a challenge for wealthy Western nations. But a new and deeply controversial chapter is being written, one where the burden and the human cost is being outsourced. Western governments, desperate to appease domestic audiences, are increasingly turning to a simple, yet ruthless, solution, paying poorer nations to take their problems away. And a number of African countries are signing on the dotted line. Welcome to the complex and shadowy world of third-country deportation deals. In this video, we're going to map out these arrangements, name the countries involved, and expose why this emerging trend isn't a solution, it's a dangerous bargain that is profoundly bad for the future of Africa. What are third-country deportation deals? First, let's be clear about what we're talking about. This isn't about deporting a Nigerian from the UK back to Nigeria. That's a standard, if often flawed, process of repatriation. We're talking about something entirely different, sending a Syrian refugee from the UK to Rwanda, or an Afghan asylum seeker from Israel to Uganda, or stranding a Bangladeshi migrant in the deserts of Niger. These are agreements where a country, let's call it country A, pays country B, often a nation in the global south with less economic and political leverage, to accept migrants and asylum seekers who have no connection to country B whatsoever. Whether the money paid to country B even benefits the citizens is a story for another day. The justification from Western nations is that this will deter dangerous journeys, break the business model of smugglers, and manage migration in an orderly fashion. But to critics, it's a simple case of burden shifting. It's the world's wealthiest nations using their financial power to pay the world's poorest to handle a problem they don't want to deal with themselves. So, which African countries are culprits? Or should we say victims? The deals range from formal, publicized treaties to secretive, off-the-books arrangements. First, and most prominently, Rwanda. The UK-Rwanda Asylum Partnership is the poster child for this policy. A deal worth hundreds of millions of pounds to initially send anyone who arrived illegally in the UK to have their asylum claim processed in Kigali. After immense legal challenges based on human rights concerns, the first flight took off in 2024. Rwanda positions itself as a solution provider, but from a different perspective, you could see a country trading its moral authority for a massive cash infusion, potentially at the expense of the very refugees it's meant to protect. Next, Uganda and the shadows. While never fully acknowledged, a well-documented scheme run by Israel saw thousands of Eritrean and Sudanese asylum seekers given a choice: remain in detention in Israel or accept a payment and a one-way ticket to Uganda or Rwanda. Reports on the ground found many were left in a legal limbo, unable to work or access services, and often attempting to immediately flee again. This model proved that such deals could be done quietly, with little accountability. Then, there's Tunisia and the EU's Fortress Europe. In 2023, the EU signed a memorandum of understanding with Tunisia, promising over €1 billion in exchange for bolstered border controls. The goal: stop boats from leaving Tunisian shores. The result? Not only are sub-Saharan African migrants being violently pushed back, but also non-African migrants from Bangladesh, Egypt, Syria are now trapped in Tunisia, unable to move forward or back. Tunisia has become a de facto, EU-funded holding pen for the world's migrants.
The Tunisian government brought us here. 3 weeks now we are here suffering. There's no good water here, there's no food here, there's no shelter here.
And we cannot forget Niger's role. Historically, the city of Agadez was the major transit hub for all migrants heading north. Under massive EU pressure and funding, Niger passed a law in 2015 criminalizing the transport of migrants. This shut down the route, but stranded thousands of people from across Africa and the Middle East. While the recent coup has changed dynamics, the EU's playbook here was clear: pay a partner nation to become Europe's immigration police. Why exactly is this so dangerous for Africa? This isn't just a political debate. These deals have real, damaging consequences for the African continent and its people. Here's why. 1. It undermines African sovereignty and solidarity. Africa has a long and proud history of hosting refugees, often with more generosity than wealthy nations. The 1969 OAU Refugee Convention specifically recognizes the right to seek asylum. These cash-for-deportee schemes turn African nations into border guards for Europe, outsourcing their foreign policy and compromising their independence. It pits African nations against each other and against the Pan-African ideal of open borders and brotherhood. 2. It's a human rights catastrophe waiting to happen. The principle of non-refoulement is the bedrock of international refugee law. You cannot send someone back to a place where they face danger. By sending a Syrian to Rwanda, how can the UK be sure they won't be persecuted or eventually forced back to Syria? These deals create a legal black hole where the rights of the world's most vulnerable people are negotiated away in a financial transaction. 3. It's a terrible economic and social deal. The millions of dollars on offer look tempting to cash-strapped governments and to politicians looking to widen their pockets. But it's a short-term fix for a long-term liability. Accepting thousands of traumatized people with no community ties requires immense investment in housing, healthcare, education, and integration costs that will far exceed the initial payment. It risks creating new social tensions and ghettos, all funded by a one-time payment from a foreign government. 4. All things considered, it lets the West off the hook. The root causes of migration, war, economic inequality, climate change are largely driven by the policies and historical actions of the global North. Instead of addressing these root causes or creating more legal migration pathways, these deals allow Western leaders to look tough for news cycles while avoiding any real, meaningful responsibility. It's a band-aid solution that exacerbates the wound. A dangerous precedent. The Rwanda model is not an anomaly, it's a blueprint. Italy is already considering a similar deal with Albania. Other European nations are watching closely. If this becomes the new normal, we risk creating a two-tiered global system where human rights are determined by your passport and the depth of your government's pockets, where the right to seek asylum is commodified and auctioned off to the lowest bidder. For Africa, the message is clear. Your continent is seen not as a partner, but as a dumping ground. These deals trade short-term cash for long-term instability and an erosion of moral standing. The challenge of migration is real, but the solution cannot be to pay the global poor to hide the problem out of sight and out of mind. True solutions require courage, investment in development, and a commitment to the international laws and principles we all agreed upon. What's happening now is not a solution. It's a dangerous, unethical, and ultimately self-defeating deal. What do you think? Are these deals a pragmatic solution or a dangerous violation of human rights? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this video informative, please give it a like and subscribe for more content that explores the pressing issues facing our world. Thanks for watching.